What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat, and this weekend goes down the Noche UFC pay-per-view, UFC 306, and I want to give my breakdown and prediction for a few fights on this card. I mean, it's not really the best card, only 10 fights and like 4 fights that I care about, so I'm going to talk about those 4 fights in particular, and I'm going to start with the prelims headliner, Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont. Aldana Dumont deserves to be on the main card. I'm way more invested in this fight. She should be a part of the main card with Diego Lopes and Alexa Grasso. Makes no sense, but whatever. Here we are. It's on the prelims. I mean, at least the fight's happening. At least Aldana is part of this card. But this should be an interesting matchup. You got a striker versus striker matchup. Although, between the two, one of them is more inclined to actually mix it up and grapple offensively, which is Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont, good striker, but she does have an ability to mix it up, go for takedowns if she needs to. Whereas Aldana, with her grappling, she's more defensive, whereas Norma's offensive with it. Aldana's grappling is mainly useful when it comes to defending takedowns or even fighting off her back, maybe even like attacking with submissions or using the threat of submissions to get back to her feet. But typically, Irene Aldana does not engage on the ground like Norma Dumont does. Aldana has more of like a sprawl and brawl type of style. And Norma Dumont, I mean, she's not really gonna be the best wrestler that Aldana will have ever fought. So I don't really think the takedown threat of Norma Dumont is gonna be as huge of a factor as people think. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Irene Aldana's takedown defense. She has better takedown defense than Norma. Norma has 72%. Aldana has 76%. And I think even though Norma does have good offensive grappling, she can get takedowns. We saw how she won her last fight against Germaine de Randamie, where she was able to adjust going up against a high-level kickboxer by turning it into a wrestling match. I don't think that's going to work out the same against someone like Aldana. Now, she might take her down, but Aldana has an underrated ability to escape from bottom, get back to her feet, and I think she has much better get-up ability, scrambling ability than Germaine de Randamie. So I think she can at least defend enough takedowns. If she gets taken down, she can get back up. And when it comes to the striking, I do think the stand-up between the two is competitive. I think Dumont has better footwork than Irene Aldana. She's got better kicks than Irene Aldana. Whereas Aldana, her striking style is mainly limited to her boxing. But her boxing is very effective, and I think Aldana will have an advantage when it comes to power. I also think she'll have a durability advantage as well. I don't think Norma Dumont is as tough as Irene Aldana. She's more susceptible to being chinned, whereas Aldana, I think she can walk through the punches of Norma, impose her pressure, and I think she can put hands on Dumont. And I think she can get Norma Dumont out of there, or at least do enough damage to convince the judges to be in her favor. So what I'm going to predict in this fight, I do predict it's going to be a competitive fight standing. Norma might get the upper hand when it comes to kicks. She might land some good leg kicks, good body kicks. She might even land some good boxing combinations as well on Aldana. And Aldana doesn't really have the best striking defense. She is there to be hit, but Aldana always moves forward. She's always pressuring, and her body shots are dangerous as well. I see her utilizing shots to the body to slow Norma down. And I think Norma is just going to slow down from being pressed on the back foot. And even if Norma Dumont does get her takedowns again, Aldana will be able to fight her way back to her feet, which is also what I think might slow down Norma Dumont. And I think in the second round, I think Irene Aldana is going to be able to find the chin of Norma Dumont. I think when it's kind of technical is when Norma Dumont is going to be doing good and when she's going to be doing better. And it's probably when she's going to be winning. But when the fight becomes ugly and becomes a scrap, I think that's when the tides are going to turn in Irene Aldana's favor. So I'm going to pick Irene Aldana by round 2 KO. I think she's going to turn up in the second round like she did in her last fight where she lost the first round, clearly won the second round. I think the same thing's going to happen here, except I do see Aldana getting a finish. But if not, I think Aldana can win a damage-based decision. Now, moving up to the feature fight of the main card, Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. This is one of the fights I'm most looking forward to on the main card, on this card as a whole. This is a fight that I've been wanting to see at UFC 303. I was so sad when it got canceled, like, on the night of. But here we are. It's rescheduled. This is going to be the biggest test in Diego Lopes's career. And when Diego Lopes fought Dan Ige kind of exposed some areas of weakness against Diego Lopes. Dan Ige showed that if you can weather the early storm of Diego, if you can just hang in there, you could potentially break Diego Lopes. If you drag him out into round 3, Diego Lopes, as a fast starter, with that fast twitch muscle, does tend to kind of slow down. But unfortunately, Dan Ige ran out of time. And Brian Ortega is much better than Dan Ige. And I believe he's just as durable as Dan Ige is as well. And just more skillful, all in all around more dangerous when it comes to the stand-up, and far more dangerous than Dan Ige when it comes to the ground fighting. Brian Ortega is a high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner, very dangerous submissions. And Brian Ortega does have underrated stand-up as well. His boxing is pretty decent, and he's also very good at setting traps on the feet as well. You got to be careful when you're pressuring this guy, because if you get a little too sloppy or careless when closing the distance, Brian could be lining you up, framing you for an elbow, like that lead elbow that he rocked Frankie with, or that spinning back elbow that he countered and dropped Korean Zombie with. Lopes would have to look out for that. However, I did pick Diego Lopes when they were supposed to fight in June, and I still think I'm going to rock with Diego to win this fight. Not super confident, especially now because Brian's going to have a lot more time to prepare. I mean, both guys will. This time they have a full notice camp, not short notice, so we might even see a better Diego than what we saw in that last fight, and a better Brian than what we would have saw in June 29th. But you have to factor in it's a 3-round fight. And Diego Lopes is a super fast starter. He puts his foot on the gas right away. He's very dangerous in the early rounds. And Ortega does tend to start very slow. He takes a bit to get warmed up. And I just think that's not going to be good for him in a 3-round fight. If it's a 5-rounder, I would probably pick Brian to win, just because he's got the Mexican toughness. He could last in the fight with Diego, and Diego could gas out. Brian could put it on him late. But I do think that Diego is going to be able to take advantage of this 3-round setting. Put a pace on Brian early, probably hurt him in the first round as well. He might have a dominant round 1, maybe enough to get a 10-8 round. I mean, if Yair could drop Ortega, Lopes definitely can. And I think he can win the second round as well. And then get through round 3 to win a decision, 29-28. That's going to be my prediction. The 3 rounds, the fast starting, Diego Lopes on paper holds a striking advantage. Not night and day, but I think he can outstrike Brian. And then even when it comes to the ground fighting, Diego Lopes is very good on the ground too. So I think he could survive the grappling situations and stand back up and continue doing work on the feet. I just think in a 3-round fight, Diego Lopes is a bad matchup for someone like Brian Ortega. But Brian does have a good chance. I will not be surprised if he does get the upset. But I'm going to go with Lopes to win a decision. And I kind of want Lopes to win because I want to see the Lobo Gym get a 3-0 sweep. But speaking of Lobo Gym and a sweep, now we move on to the co-main event of the evening, the Women's Flyweight Championship of the World, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko, Part 3. their third consecutive fight against one another, where both women have like 9 rounds worth of experience against each other, which is absolutely insane. I mean, 3 fights in a row, all that octagon time together. So you have to think that they both know each other's styles down to a T. And going forward, most likely there won't be any surprises. I mean, who knows? But this is going to be a very interesting fight. Both women are very good challenges for one another, because Alexa Grasso really challenges Shevchenko when it comes to the stand-up because of her boxing. She's able to hit Valentina Shevchenko, do damage, hurt her, but then Valentina Shevchenko is able to score takedowns, which has made the last 2 fights as close as they were, because the wrestling of Valentina Shevchenko sort of evens out the playing field. And not only even things out, but even gave Valentina Shevchenko a leg up on Grasso, arguably maybe not even once, but even twice. I mean, the wrestling offense of Val is what was winning her the first fight until in the late round she threw the spin kick, got her back caught, and then got rear naked choked. And then even in the rematch, I mean, the wrestling won her round 1. She was able to wrestle her way out of being knocked out when she got hurt in round 2. And then wrestled in round 3 to win the 3rd round. And then you also got to factor in the submission attempt as well, the guillotine, the back take. And then round 4, that was the round. That was the controversial round. That was like the determining factor as to who won that fight. But it was such a close round that it led to us having a 3rd fight. It led to this fight being a draw because of how close, because of how split round 4 was between the judges. And then Michael Bell gave Alexa Grasso a 10-8 round. But now in this 3rd fight, we're going to see how Alexa Grasso is going to be able to adjust to the takedowns of Valentina. I think a big part of why she gets taken down so much by Shevchenko is because she kind of gets too relaxed and too settled into the striking. And then she kind of forgets that, oh, Valentina is going to shoot a takedown. And then by the time Valentina gets on her legs, it's like too late. She's so deep in the shot. And then Alexa Grasso ends up on her back. But whenever Alexa is alert and like ready, and she sees the shots coming, that's usually when she is able to defend the takedowns against Valentina Shevchenko. And if in this 3rd fight, if Alexa Grasso's wrestling defense is on point, then I think Valentina Shevchenko is going to have a tough night against Alexa Grasso. Because every time they're standing, Valentina struggles. Valentina Shevchenko isn't as comfortable standing as Grasso is. And like I said, Grasso is able to connect on Val. She's fast enough to get in, land her combinations on Valentina Shevchenko, and even stun Valentina Shevchenko, something that Val is not used to dealing with. So in order for Shevchenko to completely dominate this fight, she has to be able to consistently wrestle throughout 5 rounds. I know she was winning on the feet in some moments against Alexa Grasso, but that was mainly because of the threat of the takedowns that opened up striking opportunities. But in just pure striking, Grasso always seems to get the better end of it. The boxing always makes the slight difference. For every jab that Valentina lands, Alexa has an answer for the jab. She scores with her own jab, but with more impact. And then throws hard straight crosses as well that seem to do damage on Val. So like I said, Val is going to need to consistently wrestle if she wants to win. But I don't think that in this trilogy, she's going to be able to do that. I know she was able to do it 2 fights in a row, but you have to think this 3rd time around, Alexa Grasso is really going to be on point with her defensive wrestling. And I just think she's going to be more switched on and more alert to the takedowns of Alexa, or Valentina, I mean. And I think she's going to adjust her stance so that she can defend takedowns. Now, Val will still get takedowns because if she fails a double leg, she'll then go for the upper body clinch and then trip Alexa. But every time Alexa gets taken down, she's able to get back to her feet. So that's not really an issue. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Alexa Grasso to win this trilogy against the Bullet, Valentina Shevchenko. Alexa Grasso is just too comfortable everywhere the fight goes. Like I said, more comfort on the feet. And even if she does get taken down, she's very comfortable on the ground as well. She's able to do just enough to hold off the damage from Shevchenko, not get ground and pounded, not get submitted, and then she's able to get up, score shots on the feet. And I just think Alexa Grasso, she's just so crafty and slick, just everywhere the fight goes, from the boxing to the clinching, to the ground fighting, just everything. And she's the younger fighter, and she's only gonna get better from here. From how that last fight went, I see a better Grasso turning up. Whereas Valentina Shevchenko, because of her age, because she already peaked, this is as good as she's ever going to be. And I feel like that second fight will have taken a lot out of Valentina Shevchenko. Whereas with Grasso, because she's younger, I feel like she's going to recover from that war going forward. Whereas Valentina is going to come back maybe a bit war-torn and a bit rusty. She's also coming off a hand injury. So is Alexa Grasso. But again, younger fighters seem to rebound from damage better than older fighters. And I think that's going to be a key factor in this fight. And I just see her being more confident in this trilogy than Valentina for some reason. I'm not saying Val won't have confidence because she feels she won the second fight and she's coping about the first fight. So there is some level of confidence. But now that she knows how good Alexa Grasso is, she knows, I mean, she can say what she wants, but she knows that first fight wasn't a fluke deep down. She knows Alexa Grasso can piece her up on the feet, can hurt her on the feet. She knows Grasso's tough to finish, whether it be standing or on the ground. She knows Grasso can finish her anywhere, striking or grappling. So I feel like Val might feel Alexa's aura going forward in this fight. Whereas Grasso, feeling like she already has 2 wins over Valentina, I feel like with more confidence for Alexa, it's going to make her perform so much better than the last 2 fights. And I think with this performance, I think Alexa Grasso is going to leave no doubt that she's the better fighter than Valentina Shevchenko. And I just have a feeling that she might find a finish this time. Honestly, I get those same vibes that I got from Makhachev Volkanovski too, where we saw Islam arguably lost the first one, came back, got a statement finish in the rematch. That's what I kind of see happening here, man. I just feel like Val has more of an uphill battle to climb to win this trilogy than Alexa Grasso does. I just think that it's Alexa Grasso's time. Val had a good run. She had her time. But I do think we're going to see the passing of the torch, and I think Grasso is going to be the new star moving forward in the women's flyweight division. I think she walks away with the belt and still. And now we head into the main event of the evening, the men's bantamweight championship of the world, Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. Really excited for this matchup. I've been waiting for this fight for a long time, and this is a fight that there's so many different ways this fight could play out. Like, before making this video, like, I've visualized so many different outcomes of this matchup. It's crazy. Like, I could see a world where Merab is able to go out there and just grind Sean O'Malley out with his wrestling, with his pace, with his pressure. But then I can also just envision an outcome where Sean snipes Merab, catches him, and knocks him out cold. Like, this matchup is literally the definition of 50-50, and I think both these guys pose unique challenges to each other that neither guy has had to face before. O'Malley, I mean, he did fight Aljamain Sterling, so I guess that's close to being, the level of wrestling that Merab is. And Peter Yan is well-rounded, has an ability to mix in takedowns too. But I think Merab will definitely be the best wrestler that Sean has ever fought. But not only that, he'll have the best cardio out of anyone that Sean has ever fought. And he'll be the most pressuring and relentless opponent that O'Malley will have ever faced. But then Sean, on the other hand, will be the best and most dangerous striker that Merab has ever gone up against. O'Malley's just different, compared to Merab's last few opponents. He's not old and washed like Marlon Moraes, and he's got better cardio than Marlon too. He's not like an explosive one-round fighter. He can go a hard 5 rounds at a high intense pace. But then he also has more volume output than Peter Yan and Jose Aldo combined. He doesn't fight conservative, and he's not a slow starter like Peter Yan. And I think he can match the output of Merab. And he's one of the few guys who can and would more likely make Merab pay for his aggression. Whereas guys like Yan and Aldo, they held back too much. Yan was wasting time trying to download the data, but Merab just drowned him in a lot of pressure. Aldo was worried about conserving energy, so he didn't let his hands go. Henry Cejudo is just a short, old wrestler, not that good of a striker. If O'Malley sees an opportunity to let loose and counter the moment Merab makes a mistake on the feet, he's going to capitalize, which does make this fight scary for Merab. However, if Merab is able to drag this fight past round 3, I think Merab Dvalishvili I think he will dominate the late rounds. I do think that if he can weather the early storm, I do think he has potential to drown Sean O'Malley from constant pressure, constant takedown attempts. And I think the takedowns can definitely come a lot easier the longer the fight goes. So O'Malley has to be able to set a good pace in this fight, but he also has to get an early finish, which makes it dangerous for Sean O'Malley. On Sean's end, he's got to worry about stuffing takedowns, keeping enough range to be able to snipe a guy like Merab. But then Merab also has to be careful with his entries when pressuring and trying to get takedowns. That's what makes this fight so interesting and so exciting. It's literally any man's fight. But after some thinking, I've decided I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley to win this fight. Originally, I've always said Merab beat Sean, and I'm probably going to regret this. I've probably jinxed it, and Merab will probably win now, because usually when I switch my picks, I don't have good luck. But I just think that Merab has too much holes in his striking defense, and there's just way too many openings to catch a guy like Merab. Openings that I just can't unsee someone like Sean. I can't unsee him capitalizing on those openings. You know what I mean? Especially in those early rounds. And Merab does get hurt quite often in his fights. Marlon Moraes dropped him with a left hook. Henry Cejudo stunned him with that same hook as well. And Merab is hittable. He's there to be hit. And if Cejudo could catch him, if Marlon Moraes could catch him, imagine Sean. And Sean O'Malley hurts everyone he fights. So think about it. A guy who stuns every opponent he faces versus a guy who gets stunned often. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. And Sean O'Malley's the kind of fighter where, unless you're Chito Vera, the moment he hurts you, there is no recovery process and coming back. When he hurts you, it's done. So I do think that Sean O'Malley in this fight, I think he can defend the takedowns in the early rounds. O'Malley does have improving takedown defense. He was able to defend takedowns of Aljamain Sterling. When he expects the wrestling, he can deal with the wrestling. And Merab doesn't really have the strongest takedowns or the best ground control. He usually just spams takedowns with the sole purpose of just gassing you out from having to constantly defend. But through that, I think O'Malley's takedown defense is good enough. I think he's got good enough footwork and distance to deal with Merab's pressure. I think he can use his footwork to his lateral movement to keep his back off the fence. And I think he can keep enough distance between himself and Merab to snipe him. I think he can find that perfect shot on Merab as Merab is being sloppy, trying to strike his way into distance to get a takedown. And I think from there, O'Malley can knock this guy out. So that's what I'm going to predict. Sean O'Malley wins this fight. I'm going to say he knocks him out in round 2. I think round 1 is going to be competitive because I think O'Malley's going to feel him out a little bit. Merab's going to try to pressure him, but Sean O'Malley is going to be too smooth, too slick on the feet. But then Merab might close out the round with a takedown, making it a close round. But then the second round, I think O'Malley is going to be able to bait Merab into a big counter. And I think he's going to chin him. And like I said, once O'Malley hurts guys, it's usually game over. And I think O'Malley's going to catch Merab with a similar left hook that Moraes did. But I don't think that's going to be the finishing shot. I think the left hook's going to wobble Merab. And then I think he's going to knock him out with a straight cross down the pipe. Similar to the Eddie Wineland KO, and I think that's going to be a second title defense for Sugar Sean O'Malley. He walks out with the belt, and still, not counting out Merab, though, wouldn't be surprised if he is able to avenge his teammate Aljo. But I just think O'Malley has too much danger early, and Merab just makes way too many mistakes on the feet. And against a sniper like O'Malley, you can't afford to make those mistakes or else you will pay. But that's it for my Noche UFC predictions. Let me know your picks in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, and peace out.